Hi there. I'm going to discuss a blog written by Adam Kloss in my vlog here because, it's a blog within the journey to life process that he is walking within applying self forgiveness on all his different inner characters. And this blog specifically is, well, the title is Day 106, the I Will Never Speak Again character. And from the moment that I read the title, I just wanted to read the blog because, um, I have lived out that specific sentence when I was a child. So, anyway, so I'm discussing his blog now. And so he firstly goes into how and why he has lived out this character of making the decision that he will never speak again in his entire life when he was a child, which is, I'm sure, many children end up making such a vow and such a decision when they're little, in like a high emotional state. You can just see yourself going like, never gonna speak again. you know so I mean, that was my experience anyway. And so I'm going to now read some of his self-forgiveness statements and self-commitment statements that he has written in regards with regards to this specific character that he has allowed himself to live out in his life. So, okay, for instance, this one. I forgive myself that I have accepted and allowed myself to give up on realization of and learning who I am by investigating the energy that is contained within the words I speak, and for accepting and allowing myself to not realize and understand that these words I use have been defined and energized by me and therefore can be redefined by me so as to be aligned with what is real and can be released by me from the energies that I have accepted and allowed them to carry and contain and to convey. So that one is with regards to how he has basically, when he was a child, expressed himself within specific words, with specific energetic attachments to it, to which he then got a certain reaction from his environment, who probably punished him or yelled at him or something. And then instead of looking at the words that he is speaking and looking at the starting points of the words that he is speaking, and thus taking responsibility for himself and for simply realigning himself and simply speaking and voicing himself as who he really is and not an energetic reaction to his environment, he just went and took a vow of silence to basically sabotage himself, instead of simply doing some self-investigation, because that whole vow of silence is really like a self-sabotaging that children tend to go into, where they actually try to gain like a sense of power on their environment. It's like an act of spitefulness where you just kind of go like, fuck you, I'm never gonna speak again, there, you happy now, you know? But it doesn't in any way assist yourself. It doesn't in any way support yourself, and it just makes matters worse because eventually you're just going to hit another point of conflict with your environment. I mean, because as a child, you don't realize that this entire world is nothing but a system. It's just, everything that's playing out, how people react to you, everything that your teachers and your parents are saying to you, and all the reactions going on, basically all the bullshit that people speak every day. It's a system. It's a pre-programmed system that has been playing out since the history of mankind, where the same type of patterned behavior and reactions, reactive behavior has simply been passed on from generation to generation. But as a child, you don't actually see that, and there is no support for you to in fact understand that that's how it works. So you tend to fall into the exact same reactive patterns as your parents, because as a child, for instance, you don't realize that most likely your parents did exactly the same when they were a child. They probably reacted exactly the same. So there is no power, there is no real having power over your environment. I mean, because it's all simply reactions. Everybody's simply reacting to everybody, and everybody is just looking for that kind of power. So, it's just silly, stupid conflict and power games that is playing out. And I mean, there is really no one that is supporting children in simply stopping and taking responsibility for themselves, and simply looking within themselves and realizing, like, okay, this is me, I am here, so I'm not going to allow myself to simply step into this reactive system and just basically make myself a slave of my environment and of this entire world by reacting to it, and by allowing my life to be completely defined, or allowing who I am within myself to be completely defined by other people and who they are. So, okay. And another one. In relation to this vow that I once made when I was a child, I forgive myself that I have accepted and allowed myself to judge deliberate decisions and vows that I have made long ago as being of no importance and something that can be overlooked, because obviously since then I have spoken and have talked and therefore not kept this vow, when actually I have never deliberately and consciously changed this vow, but only left it as a layer within myself and as a momentum to self-distrust. And I have never up till now forgiven in myself this fear on which I based this vow, or changed the foundation on which I accepted and allowed myself to proceed into and onwards with my life. So that's a really cool self-forgiveness statement, because therein he realizes and recognizes that if we don't actually look at our past and look at our reactions, and we simply allow them to pass, because our feelings change, so it's as if the things that happened in the past and the way we felt and experienced ourselves in the past, it's as if it's just gone, it just passed. It's the past, so it just passed, now I feel different, so it's not who I am anymore. But we don't realize that what happened then is like a resonant layer within ourselves of like an experience wherein we like allowed ourselves to make a decision about who we are within ourselves as a moment of distrust, as what Adam says. It's a really cool way of putting it. A moment of distrust. It's like you allowed this reaction to exist within yourself, wherein like a moment of confusion or something, and for a moment it's like you didn't know who you are, or you abdicated self-responsibility, so it was a moment of distrust, which then formed a layer within you wherein you basically within yourself realize that you cannot trust yourself. And obviously the rest of your life will be built on that one layer of the realization that you can't actually trust yourself. So this isn't something that simply passes, but this is actually something that integrates within yourself as a resonant layer, and that forms the basis of who you actually are. So it's a complete illusion to, as adults, believe that our childhood is in the past and has simply passed, and that we have in some way outgrown it or become better than or more than the past. Because obviously, we are the past. We are in this moment living out the past, because all the things that happened in the past, we have experienced that, and we have made certain decisions in the past, and we have come to certain conclusions in the past about who we are, about what the world is, and about what our place is in the world, based on these types of high emotional experiences as reactions to our environment, wherein we have basically made a statement and a decision of who we're going to be in relation to our environment, because these experiences don't simply change, but they are like a continuation, or they are always a reaction to an experience that always seem to move in polarities. For instance, one moment you will become really angry and take a vow of silence, and then be all spiteful and go like, I'm never speaking again, and experience this power within yourself, wherein you feel like you have control over your environment, because now you're being spiteful to them and you're spiting them, and you're kind of making a statement that they have no power over you. So now, because as a child you don't have any other power than these types of silly things, so now you are going to spite them, you're going to spite your parents and your teachers by not speaking anymore. So that in itself is a certain experience of a polarity, like the experience of superiority. And then the next moment, when you are being faced with a point where you have to speak again, you will go into an experience of inferiority, where you realize that your plan hasn't actually worked. So it's like you kind of have to admit to yourself that you're not a superior and you don't have that kind of power. So what then happens is, when you hit that experience of inferiority and powerlessness, you again go and search for another way to hold control and power over your environment in a different way. So it's like you're constantly making these kinds of decisions for yourself that just accumulate in your life, and you're never really aware of it, and you're never aware of the fact that it actually accumulates, and that it had a certain starting point in your past, because you're constantly changing, and you believe that your experience in this moment is actually who you really are, not realizing that it's simply a reaction to to all those various polarity reactions of the past that have been building up onto itself and each other all the time. So unless we actually find out what the starting point is of our experience, we will not be able to actually stop it. And so I would suggest to go and read Adam's Journey to Life, because his way of writing out the construct and the character is really cool. And because most likely you have in your own life also been living out and playing out the I will never speak again character when you were a child. I think every child has done that at some point, like hitting that point of spitefulness where you just go into a desire of having power over your environment and say things like that to yourself, and have never actually realized the consequences of taking a vow like that and making a decision like that. So to assist and support yourself in digging into your own life and your childhood and who you are, and to walk the process of standing up as life and not simply being this reactive system. So I will leave the link to his blog in the description box, and so you can go and check it out, and also go and check out the Journey to Life Facebook group, so you can daily read a blog by anyone. Just pick out a blog that you of which the title speaks to you, and read it out loud so you can actually for yourself realize the words that are being spoken, and to start walking your own journey to life. And okay, so thanks.